Hello and welcome to this Oklahoma State Historic Preservation Office Lunch and Learn presentation. I'm Christina Wyckoff, the historical archaeologist with the Oklahoma State Historic Preservation Office. And today it is my great privilege to introduce Laura Martin, the Deputy Director of the Research Division. She will be presenting on finding your native roots, researching with the Dawes Final Rolls. Thank you so much, Laura.
Well, thank you, Christina. It is my pleasure to be here. And I thank you all for spending this frosty afternoon with me. And hopefully, I will teach you a little bit about the Dawes Rolls and how to research your Native American ancestry. So, without further ado, I think we'll get started. Well, finding your Native American roots and researching the Dawes Rolls is kind of a complicated topic. And before we begin, I just want to do a little caveat because I know some of the language that will be used in this presentation is not necessarily the language that we would use today, but historically, this is what the rolls were called, and these were some of the terms that were used. So we are going to get started. And first of all, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about the Oklahoma Historical Society for those of you who do not know. The Oklahoma Historical Society was founded in 1893. Since its inception, the Oklahoma Historical Society has been fulfilling our mission by collecting, preserving, and sharing the history of Oklahoma and its people. The Historical Society, a little fun fact, the Historical Society is the only institution in the world that is a Smithsonian and a National Archives affiliate. We have many, many different departments within the Historical Society, and our State Historic Preservation Office is one of those. We also have 24 museums and sites that are under the Oklahoma Historical Society's umbrella. So if you haven't visited those, if you wanted to visit Honey Springs or perhaps the Sod House, Pioneer Woman Museum, those are all different agencies and different departments that are under the Historical Society's umbrella. But today we're going to discuss the Research Division collections. And I want to tell you just a little bit about what that entails. As many of you may not know, the Oklahoma Historical Society is the newspaper repository for the state of Oklahoma. We have all newspapers from 1844 to the present for all 77 counties located in our archives. Many of those will be Native American newspapers. In addition, we have over 11.5 million photographs within our collections. We have numerous oral histories. We have an extensive film and video collection, which you can find by visiting our website. We have our own YouTube channel. There are millions and millions of pages of manuscripts, books, and of course, the American Indian Archives collection. Well, genealogy, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the largest pastimes in the world today. I think we got beat out by NASCAR and football, but we are a very large pastime. And with so many repositories these days digitizing records and making them available online, there is no better time to begin your genealogy search. The Research Center has many, many tools to assist you with your American Indian ancestor search and also just genealogy in general. So today we're going to discuss many of those tools that you can use for research. And if you haven't used the Oklahoma Historical Society's website, I highly encourage you to do so. On the Oklahoma Historical Society's website, as far as Native American resources, we have a great deal of documents and tools able to assist the researchers. For Native American research, we have the index for the Dawes Final Rolls, the Hastains Township Plat of the Creek Nation. And ladies and gentlemen, this will be the actual plat book, basically denoting the actual township section and range, the creeks were allotted. In addition, we have the same for the Seminole. We have removal of restriction files, Cherokee freedmen applications, and additional resources on the 1896 applications. We aren't going to discuss the 1896 applications for enrollment for the 5 tribes in too much detail today, but we will highlight those at the end of the program. There's also the American Indian Archives Index, Chilocco School records, Indian agency records, and the official register of Indian files. Additional resources, I have highlighted those on the slide. You can also find the Lytton papers. These will be books and documents that are indexed in its entirety, and you will find the entire series located on our website. You will also find many tribal compacts. With the history of the Dawes Commission and how the commission developed, there is many specifics pertaining to tribal compacts and laws and treaties. You can also view those on our website by visiting this particular link and site. Some of the other records that you are going to find is we have a lot of people who visit the research division, and we kind of have a little mistaken identity. So today we're going to kind of talk about some of those misconceptions and also do a little bit of myth busting. So before we begin, I wanted to tell you that oftentimes the people mistake the Oklahoma Historical Society Research Center for a tribal enrollment office. We are not a tribal enrollment office. All tribal applications must be submitted to the tribe for citizenship determination. In addition, we also get a lot of people who come into the research library or call wanting to know if this is the day we do DNA samples. We do not collect DNA, nor do we analyze DNA at the Oklahoma Historical Society. We have also been asked, is this the day they come in and do their blood samples? We do not collect blood either, ladies and gentlemen. One of the questions that I thought was very interesting is about blood. We had a lady who called and said her son was in a car accident and received a transfusion from a full-blooded Native American. So did that make them eligible for the Dawes final rolls? Now, ladies and gentlemen, we do not make determinations like that. I can pretty well tell you what the tribes would say, but for purposes of DNA or blood samples, we do not do that at the Historical Society. In addition, we have also had individuals come in with actual teeth. We have been told stories about wisdom teeth having 3 roots, and could we extract DNA from the teeth to see if these ancestors were Native American? We do not do that, nor do we issue Players Club cards for casinos. So just that for a little bit of tidbit of information. Now, what we can do, and we can provide you with millions and many records within the American Indian Archives collection. They are utilized daily, and no more is more widely used than the Dawes final rolls. Approximately 90% of the patrons who visit the research center are looking for that elusive Native American ancestor. In order to better assist the patrons, because this was one of the most widely asked questions from patrons, the Research Center has created an index to the Dawes final rolls, which you will find available on our website. The search engine for the OHS website is the basically you can type in a name. You can type, if you do not know the tribe, you don't have to put the tribe. If you know a roll number or you're looking for a census card number, you can type that information as well. Now, there are many sites that have the index to the Dawes final rolls. I personally am a little bit partial to ours because, in addition to basically just the basic information, on the rolls, you will also, on the index, you will also find a note section. And in this note section, we have tried to apply if an individual perhaps got married before the rolls closed. That information will be there. If they were adopted Delaware, that information will be on the index as well. So it will provide you with just a little bit more information than just a normal website when you're searching for the index. The American Indian Archives collection is housed in our archives. It contains more than 3.5 million documents. and over 6,000 bound volumes of American Indian records. Now, these American Indian records can contain anything from school records to census records to immigration list, per capita payments. There is so much information contained in these archives that can help you with your Native American and American Indian records research. Housed in the collection, we also have the Bureau of Indian Affairs collection, the official government records for the 5 tribes, records of governance of the American Indian tribes in Oklahoma. There is so much, ladies and gentlemen. Our website, if you want to go to our catalog, you can browse and view the entire American Indian Archives collection. In addition, you will find removal of restriction files. There's just so much on there that basically it would take an entire program just to walk through our website. But I encourage you to visit that, and it will tell you exactly what we have within the collections. Becoming custodians. Many people wonder how in the world were we selected in order to become custodians of the American Indian Archives collection? So I want to give you just a little bit of history on that particular subject. The Oklahoma Historical Society, as I mentioned previously, was established in 1893. We were established even before the National Archives was. So during this particular time, Grant Foreman, who came to Indian Territory in 1899 as a field worker for the Dawes Commission, he developed a knowledge of the Eastern Oklahoma tribes, and he was very instrumental in funding the Muscogee Historical Society in 1920. In February of 1924, Grant Foreman was elected to the OHS Board of Directors. As a part of the Board of Directors and as a part of the WPA Federal Writers Project, he directed work of the Historical Records Survey that compiled over 116 volumes of oral histories, which is now known as the Indian Pioneer Papers. He was such an amazing historian, and he basically wanted to keep these records, and realizing the historical importance and the historical significance of these tribal records, he petitioned Congress on behalf of the Oklahoma Historical Society in the 1930s. In March of 1934, the president signed a bill authorizing the Oklahoma Historical Society to become the official custodian of the American Indian Archives collection. And we are so grateful to Mr. Foreman. We house these in our upstairs collections. We are extremely proud of being the custodians of these collections. We have them in a humidity controlled environment. But if you all would ever like to come and see where we house these records, we would be more than happy to give you a behind the scenes tour. I wanted to start off by giving you just a little brief history of the Dawes Commission and why the Dawes Commission was established and what are the final roles. We get a number of people who come in to do research, and they are basically searching for that Native American ancestor, and they have no clue where to start. It's very important to know the history of the Dawes Commission and know when those roles were taken. This will give you a few more clues as to where and when to search for your Native American ancestor. This is a picture of an early photograph of the Dawes Commission in Indian Territory. Henry Dawes was a senator from Massachusetts. He was instrumental in basically getting the Dawes Commission started. There were several members that were on the committee, and they came to Indian Territory with a mission and a goal. And basically, the Dawes Commission was created in 1893 by act of Congress. The purpose of this commission was to meet with representatives of the five tribes and to secure, by agreement through proper negotiations, the consent to extinguish the title to their lands. Now, I say this very lightly, negotiate. That is a very, very loose term for the Dawes Commission records because there was very little negotiation at this particular time. The relinquishment of communal and land ownership to make way for individual land allotments is one of their objectives. They were to encourage, again, using that word lightly, the American Indian to assimilate and adopt a lifestyle more equivalent to their white settlers. These were all the goals of the Dawes Commission. They were to create an official tribal membership roll that would be used to determine who would be eligible to receive these individual allotments of land known as these individual parcels of land, known as allotments. As one can imagine, from 1894 to 1896, this quote encouraging of the Dawes Commission had very little impact and was very unsuccessful in negotiating with tribal leaders. Beginning in 1898, due to the unsuccessful nature, and they were not able to encourage the tribes to give up their land, beginning in 1898, a new authority was granted to the Dawes Commission with the passage of another congressional law known as the Curtis Act. With the passage of this act, basically Congress seized control of all tribal Indian territory, dissolving tribal governments and reducing the power of tribal courts by placing them under federal jurisdiction. The act also granted the authority to the Dawes Commission to oversee the allotment process without consulting with tribal leaders and without their consent. The Dawes enrollment process. Many times we get asked at the Historical Society who exactly was eligible for enrollment. There was many criteria that was placed on the Dawes Commission in order to determine if these individuals were in fact eligible for enrollment. To be eligible for tribal enrollment, one first had to be a member of the five civilized tribes. That would include the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Creek, the Chickasaw, and the Seminole. You would have to appear on an earlier roll or provide documentation that you were, in fact, living within the tribe and a tribal member. You would have to come in person before the Dawes Commission and have your enrollment applications approved by the Dawes Commission before you could be enrolled. If an enrollee had a lineage from multiple tribes, such as if you were part Choctaw and part Chickasaw, you would have to choose one tribe in which to enroll. Specific requirements excluded many of those who had left tribal lands and then tried to return. So basically, a lot of exclusion was going on during the enrollment process. There was a lot of dissent. There was a lot of questions about who was eligible for the rolls because of this exclusion. In addition, you also had to be an enrollee. You had to have established residency and be living in Indian Territory at the time of enrollment. You could not have been living in Arkansas or Texas. You had to have completed the removal process, ended up in Oklahoma, and be in Indian Territory in order to enroll. Applications, when in completing the application process, there was much assistance that was provided for enrollees. The various tribes would basically select known tribal leaders, and they were asked to join the Dawes Commission to assist in their enrollment process. These Indian delegates would assist in identifying tribal members in each community. There were representatives from each of the five tribes, and these delegates would act as language interpreters as well as identifying tribal members who were reluctant to enroll. There was also the establishment of field offices. As I mentioned previously, um, there was a number of different time periods in which the Dawes Final Rolls took place. From 1898 to 1914 was when the rolls were open. And basically, these field offices and the commission would visit various tribes in their tribal towns and basically in the nations, and they would take these applications. There were newspaper notices that were sent out. They were published urging individuals who had not enrolled to come and apply. Many people, especially the full bloods, were reluctant to apply for the Dawes Final Rolls. Often with full bloods, the commission would enroll tribal members whether they wanted to or not. There were many fraudulent enrollment cases, and as you can imagine, during this time when notices were sent out in the newspapers, there were many whites who basically were applying for enrollment. There was basically stories of whites who were paying to get on the roll. They were basically bribing the commissioners. There was also individuals who should have been on the roll, but perhaps were not on the roll just because of the criteria that was involved. You have to remember that basically the tribe when they were forcing the tribal enrollment, many of these Native Americans did not understand the concept of individual land ownership. They knew they were Indian. Basically, they knew what their tribes were. So why should they have to go and enroll? However, many whites took advantage of this. You would find whites marrying Native American women in order to obtain fraudulent enrollment. So there was a lot of different dissents that was going along during this enrollment process. Newspaper notices were sent out basically telling the Native Americans when the various enrollment periods were and that they were going to be in specific areas at certain times. And they were encouraging enrollment for the Dawes Rolls. This is an example in the Cherokee for a Cherokee enrollment notice. Basically, it tells you that from Monday, November 4th to December 4th, 1901, the Cherokee Nation will be housed in at this particular time, and they were encouraging people to come and enroll with the commission. This was another application or notice that was sent out in the newspapers, basically denoting the closing of the rolls. As you might imagine, many people probably did not get notice. They didn't know when the commission was going to be there, so they sent out dual notices, basically telling you you need to come enroll. This is when the rolls are closing. And so this was just another aspect of trying to get the Native Americans and trying to get a full count of those for the membership rolls. Those who came to enroll between 1898 and 1914, the Dawes Commission processed over 250,000 applications for tribal enrollment. These were individuals who basically came before the Dawes Commission and were basically applying for enrollment. Many of these were not approved, as you will see later, but they did come for tribal enrollment. Now, while it is important to note, many people ask, and we get many questions at the Historical Society. Well, if the rolls closed in 1907, why does it say 1914? Well, it's important to note while the enrollment period for the Dawes Commission did close in March of 1907, there were many different court cases involving disputed enrollments that were going on and continued up until 1914. Basically, this could be anything from the Dawes Commission was asking for more documentation, and they were disputing that perhaps an individual was eligible for enrollment. So the Dawes Commission was asking these individuals to come back and provide them more information. Many times, this could be a marriage record, this could be a death record, or a death notice. Many times, they would actually bring individuals who would provide testimony to for the fact that they were in Indian Territory, they had been here for a very long time, or they had descendants or ancestors who would testify for them, stating that they were in fact tribe members of the tribe. So finding your American Indian ancestor on the tribes today, on the tribal roll today, there are many different things that you will have to ask before. When the enrollment process was complete, as I mentioned previously, there were over 240,000 applications. But when the enrollment process was complete, the Dawes final rolls would contain more than 101,000 names of tribal enrollees. Today, the Dawes final rolls are used by the 5 tribes, the Cherokee, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole, to determine who is eligible for tribal enrollment. In order to be listed on, in order to, for tribal membership today, the tribes will tell you that in order to be listed, you must prove that you have a direct lineal descendant who is located on the Dawes roll. Now, one of the questions that we get a lot is basically with all of these ancestry databases and all of these things out there available now and DNA tests, will the Dawes accept DNA for tribal membership? Now, although some of these DNA tests will in fact tell you that you have Native American blood, it does not distinguish what tribe. So the tribes will not accept that as proof for Native American ancestry. Because in order to be listed on the Dawes roll, you are going to have to find that direct lineal ancestor, and you are going to have to connect yourself to that person by providing birth certificates, death certificates, and marriage certificates showing how you are related to that individual on the Dawes final rolls. Questions to ask yourself before beginning your search. Some of the questions that you're going to have to ask, and you're going to have to do a little bit of genealogy research before jumping into the Dawes rolls. Some of the questions to ask is, was your ancestor in Indian Territory between 1898 and 1907? If not, your ancestor is probably not going to be on the roll. When was your ancestor born? Were they born before or after the Dawes rolls were taken? Some of the questions that we get at the Historical Society is, we have individuals who come in and say that their ancestor was born in 1910, and they're searching for that individual and they cannot find them on the Dawes roll. Well, since the majority of the rolls closed in 1907, basically you're not going to be able to find that individual on the roll. And you will have to look for that person's parents and then connect yourself to that parent that is located on the Dawes roll. When was your ancestor born? And basically, were they born before or after the Dawes rolls were taken? We talked just a little bit about that. Knowing the age of your ancestor is going to help you determine if they would have been enrolled under their married name or their maiden name. Would that ancestor have been living with their parents at the time the rolls were taken, or would they have been married and out of the house with children? Some of these questions can help you help make the process a little easier. Do you know if your ancestor was married? When did they get married? Do you know the spouse's name? Did your ancestor have any children and when were they born? Many times, the people that are using the Dawes rolls don't know where to start. They're searching for that ancestor, but they can't seem to make that connection. The United States federal census is an excellent, excellent place to start. What you can do, and just because I will make a note here that just because your ancestor is living in Indian Territory does not mean they were Native American. There were many, many more whites that were living in Indian Territory than Native Americans. But the census can be an excellent clue as to where to start looking. If your ancestor was perhaps in Texas or perhaps in Arkansas during the 1900 and 1910 census, they're probably not going to be on the roll. The Oklahoma Historical Society, we do house all of the census collections from 1790 to 1950. So the 1900 census is especially interesting in that it has a special Indian schedule, basically listing the name of the individual. It will tell you if that person was Native American. It will give you the month of birth, the year of birth, their age, their birthplace. It will also tell you if they were enrolled as a tribal member. It will tell you if they were Native American. And then on the bottom of the special U.S. Census Indian population schedule, it will also tell you what tribe. Now, I know that this is a little bit hard to read, but this is just for demonstration purposes. So if you don't know where to start, do some genealogy research and start with the federal census. Okay, use the resources that are available. I know, and we talked just a little bit about many historical societies, genealogical societies. Ancestry.com, Fold3 has a number of resources available, and many of them do have the index for the Dawes final rolls. Now, just a little note to kind of put in your hat. If any of you are living in the metro area and have a metropolitan library card, you can gain access to a website that is called Fold3. On Fold3, this particular database will allow you to access all of the Dawes applications and census records. So if you're looking at the index, and you can actually do this, ladies and gentlemen, from home. So if you have a Metro Library card, you can log in your username and your password, and you can obtain these records from your home in your jammies while you're putting that other marshmallow in your hot chocolate. The Oklahoma Historical Society, as we mentioned previously, we do have a Dawes Roll search index. So if you are looking for that elusive ancestor and you just wanted to start with the Dawes Roll, you can type in a name, the first name, the last name. You can type in a tribe, or you can just search the entire database, which includes all the rolls for the 5 civilized tribes. And if you do this while you're doing your searching, a lot of people will come to the Historical Society with a name and they say, "Oh, this is my grandmother, and she is listed on the roll." Just remember, if you're just typing in a name and haven't done any of the genealogy research on your family, you are still going to have to prove that that ancestor that is located on the Dawes rolls is one of your descendants. Okay, searching the Dawes roll. And basically, for the purposes of this program, This is an index card, and we are going to follow Mary Allen. Um, we get many questions, basically asking if your ancestor, when your ancestor is listed on the roll, they will call and say, well, my mother is listed on the roll. I saw my mother's name. One important note to remember is when you are searching the Dawes final rolls, you will see ages, you will see blood quantums, you will see roll numbers, you will see census cards, but you have to remember when those Dawes rolls were taken from 1898 to 1914. For example, this young lady that I was helping and said that her mother's name was on the roll, her mother was born in 1950. Well, her mother is not going to be listed on the roll due to the fact that these rolls closed in 1914. So we had to go back to the drawing board and basically look for other avenues of research in order for her to track her Native American ancestor. The OHS website is an exceptional research tool. And one of the things that I love about our website is not only can you search by first name and last name, as you will see in our example, Mary Allen, it will tell you that she was 10 years old, she was female, she was 1/16th Cherokee by blood. But do you see the column that says census card and page number? If you will click on the hyperlink when you're searching the Dawes Rolls, if you will click on that hyperlink, that link will actually tell you who all was living in that particular household. So, for example, it will tell you the names of Mary's parents, if Mary had any brothers or sisters. It will also list that information on our website. There's something special that everyone needs to remember as well is that when the Dawes Rolls were formed, they did enrollment by a number of different classifications or categories. You will find within the Dawes Rolls, you will find individuals listed by blood. You will have individuals listed by marriage, minors by blood. You will have freedmen listed who were the enslaved who were enslaved by the Native Americans. You will also find minor freedmen's and newborn freedmen's. As you can see in our example, Mary Allen is listed by blood. So sorry. Now, it's important to note the age. The age is going to be extremely significant because many people, as I mentioned before, are looking for maybe an ancestor that was maybe a grandparent or a great grandparent. The age is going to be significant, and many people, when you look at the age, you can kind of assume that that is the age in approximately 1902. Since the Dawes Rolls were taken between 1898 and 1914, you are not going to know exactly when that enrollment took place until we look at the census card. So if you're just searching the index, the best way to determine if that ancestor is perhaps yours is to remember the age rule and kind of assume that that will be their age in 1902. Now, as we look at Mary, we're going to look at the actual census card. So this will tell you that the name of Mary's, it will tell you the name of Mary's father. And let's just kind of analyze this particular census card as we're going. It will tell you that they were living in Flint District. They were living in the post office with Stonewall. As you can see over on the right-hand side, it will give you the field number. This is actually the field number or the census card number. When you're searching the Dawes Rolls, the census card number is going to be the number that is going to enumerate the family by household. So you can see that Mary is listed on here with her father. Her father is Walter A. He is 40 years old. If you'll notice running down the left-hand side of the page, there is the Dawes roll number. Now, these roll numbers are going to be specific numbers assigned to each individual who received an allotment or who received enrollment in the tribe. Now, the census card numbers and the Dawes Rolls number are going to be a little bit different. The census card number or the field number, as you see in the upper right hand corner, those were going to be all of the people that were enumerated in that particular household. The roll numbers are individual numbers specific to those families. So you will see that there's a Walter Allen, is her father. He was 40 years old. He was male. He was 1/8 Cherokee. He was on an 1880 census. He was living in the Flint district. His father is E.D. Allen, who is deceased, and he was a non-citizen. His mother was Narcissus Allen, and she is also deceased, and she was living in the Flint district. You will also notice that he is listed here with several children, and Mary L. being one of those. It will tell you that Mary L. was the daughter, and she was 8 years old. And of course, she was 1/16 because your blood quantum is going to be reduced as you have children. So she was 1/16 Cherokee by blood. Now, a lot of times these census cards are going to also depict proof that they had to provide to the Dawes Commission. In addition, basically, if you'll look down at the bottom, you can actually tell that number one, who is Walter Allen, it's actually telling you that he was on an 1880 roll and he was listed as W.A. Allen. So when they went before the Dawes Commission, and they were applying for enrollment. As I mentioned, many times they had to apply and basically have additional proof that they were listed as a tribal member. So this would be the additional proof that Mr. Allen supplied to the Dawes Commission when he went for enrollment. Sometimes it was marriage records, as I mentioned, and sometimes it was testimony of other individuals for them to be enrolled. Now, one of the other items that is very, very unique to the Dawes applications are the application packets itself. When they went for enrollment, the Dawes Commission was required to ask specific questions in order to determine if these individuals were eligible for enrollment. These documents can contain a treasure trove of information. They would ask information such as, what is your name? What is your age? What is your post office? What is your father's name? This Mr. Allen is stating that basically his father was a white man. It asked who all he is applying for application for. What is the name of his mother? All of the children, and if they were enrolled on a previous roll. Many times, these application packets, depending on the tribe and the individual, can be in essence of 50, 60 pages. Sometimes, if you are looking for a full blood, you may only find 3 or 4 pages because they were able to document their proof. Many times, you will also find a lot of testimony. As I mentioned previously, there was a lot of conflict. There was a lot of discrepancies within the Dawes roll. If the Dawes Commission could not determine if you were, in fact, on an earlier roll or you did not have proof of that you had been in the territory, they would ask for testimony of individuals. This could be a mother, a father, a brother. So they would actually, as I said, bring those individuals to the Dawes Commission and have them testify that, yes, in fact, you were a tribal member. You will find that information also in the Dawes packets. In addition, Oklahoma did not become a state until 1907. This Dawes packets can also contain a lot of information about marriage records and death records. Since we did not become a state until 1907, it wasn't mandatory that Oklahoma started keeping birth and death certificates until well after we became a state. A lot of times, the application packet is the treasure trove for birth and death records. This is an example of an ornate marriage record. Basically, it tells you that when this individual was married, and they would have to supply that as part of their enrollment packet. In addition, you will also find death notices. This tells you that this Jackson Yale, who was enrolling in the Choctaw Nation, basically he passed away and this was approved September 18th, 1902. This could also be some of the reasons that you will find information where people have applied for application to the Dawes Commission, but perhaps they were stricken from the roll because perhaps they died before the rolls closed. So a lot of times you will find that information in the application packets as well. The 1896 applications were conducted prior to the Dawes Roll, and many of these applications basically were rejected. This was done without, basically, there was a lot of conflict over these applications. Many people applied who were not eligible for the roll. So basically, these applications were rejected. If you are looking for an ancestor that you feel may have applied for through the Dawes Commission in 1896, and they're not on the Dawes Commission rolls, the final rolls, you might want to check the 1896 applications. These also can tell you why they were rejected. They also contain a lot of genealogical information as well. So if you're looking for that elusive ancestor, please do not forget about the 1896 applications. Now, I know within the Historical Society, we do have a lot of other documents to help you with your ancestor search. There are removal of restriction files, and the removal of restrictions when individuals who were half blood or more basically went before the commission to apply. The government basically deemed them unfit to handle their own affairs, so they assigned them a guardian. Basically, when they received their allotment, these allotments were held in trust for 25 years, unless you applied for removal of restriction. So we do have those removal of restrictions files at the Oklahoma Historical Society, basically stating that the enrollee was able to sell the land or basically lease it to other individuals. We also, in addition to the removal of restriction files, we also have the full allotment packets. Now, the Dawes allotments, basically, they will be in addition to the applications and to the census cards. These allotment packets will tell you what township, section, and range each individual received when they applied for the Dawes Commission and after the enrollment process was taken. So this information can be a treasure trove of information as well. It can also tell you if minors, a lot of times parents would apply for the minors in order to receive the allotment. So you will find this information in the allotment packets. There is just so much information that basically the Oklahoma Historical Society has for Native American research. And I want you to know that we are always there to help you and provide information if you ever have any questions. I know that this was a very brief overview of the Dawes final rolls. A lot of information, as I mentioned, it was just an overview, but we do have additional information. If you would like to come in, we would be more than happy to help you with your research. So, Christina, I think I am about out of time. So, if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this excellent presentation, Laura. We do have a number of questions. I would also like to remind the audience that you're all welcome to enter your questions into the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen. So please feel free to do that now. And Laura, if you'd like, I can turn your camera on.
Yes.
And the first question I see here asks, did the Dawes Commission take any pictures of those who came to enroll on the Dawes Roll? And do you have any recommendations of where to start a search for photographs of family members during that time on the Oklahoma Historical Society website?
I do actually. That is an amazing question. Within the Historical Society, we have something that is called the Gateway to Oklahoma History. If you will just Google that, the Gateway is the Oklahoma Historical Society's digital platform. And basically, when I searched for the Dawes Rolls, there were over 49,000 hits. As one of the slides in my presentation, you saw the individuals who came to enroll. There will be many, many photographs. As I mentioned, we have over 11.5 million in our collection, but I would certainly start with the Gateway. It not only has over about 600,000 photos, we also have newspapers pre 1923. If you're searching for a Native American ancestor, you can type their name in there. It will tell you if it comes up in any of those particular newspapers prior to 1923. There are books, there are magazines, there are articles, maps, that are located on this website as well. But I would definitely start there for photos of your ancestor. Oh, Christy.
Thank you. Thank you. I was muted. The next
Okay.
question the next question asks, are there only 5 tribes found in the Dawes Rolls?
Yes. Basically, the Dawes rolls were the rolls for the five civilized tribes, and basically what they called the historical term. Those are the only tribes that are going to be listed on that particular roll. Now, we do have rolls for other tribes. If they were the Plains and Woodland tribes, we do have other rolls located at the Historical Society, but for the purposes of the Dawes rolls, it will only include those five tribes.
And the next question is related and asks if a person is trying to trace their affiliation to the Apache tribe, should they start with the U.S. Census for the Indian population schedule?
I would definitely start with with the federal census. Now there are roles that are available for the Apache, but usually what I try to tell people is if you do not know where your ancestor was living, the best information that you can get is through the census because it will give you the most information in one concentrated location. Then from that, you can go and look at previous roles. You can see where they were living, it basically, and that will determine kind of where you need to start your search for your ancestor.
And the next question asks what the hours of operation for the research center are.
Oh my goodness. Well, we are open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 4:45. We have an amazing staff that will be there to assist you. We can help you locate these documents. We have individuals who can sit down and work with you. If you're researching your ancestor and you just need somebody to kind of walk you through that, walk you through the databases. As I mentioned, there are many things that are available now through Ancestry and Fold3 and various databases. And sometimes researching your Native American ancestry can be just a little bit more than, as Ancestry says, following the leaf. So sometimes you need to come into the Historical Society or come into your research facility and let someone help you. And we are more than happy to do that.
Well, and the next question asks is it better to arrange an appointment to visit?
We are there Tuesday through Saturday. So anytime you would like to come in, as I mentioned, we have an amazing staff and we are always happy to sit down with you and work with you on your ancestry.
The next question asks, does the OHA, maybe OHS, have records of children who were placed in the Cherokee orphanage between 1910 and 1915?
On our website, we do have a lot of records on orphanages, boarding schools, um, and things like that. I will tell you that we have millions and millions of documents that are on microfilm. Some of these are not going to be indexed, but we do have a microfilm catalog. So we do have records of orphanages, and you can go to our website and you can search through the Research Center and through the archives catalog, type in the name of the orphanage, and it will tell you what records that we have on those.
This individual says uh, they're looking for information on Osage relatives and not finding a lot. Where would they want to go to look for that information?
I can help you with that as well. The Osage records, basically, what I would do, the White Hair Memorial has an excellent collection on Osage resources. We do have a few rolls of census, but by and large, most of the Osage records are going to be housed at the White Hair Memorial. They have census rolls. Lewis Burns, who is an avid Osage researcher, and they were donated his entire collection. And they have many, many records to help genealogists, and they are open to the public, I believe now. And those that is one of the Historical Society's sites. So you can find their email address and their telephone number located on our website.
We have a lot of questions here,
Oh,
so
that's
um,
okay.
I was trying to
I know
arrange
that
them
was
by
kind of fast, so I'm sorry.
no, that's wonderful. I'm trying to arrange them by subject, but I think I'm not going to be able to
Oh,
do that, so I'm just going to keep
it'll
going.
be
This person asks, can I use the allotment books to track our family records? Our books are large and detailed.
okay. A lot for allotment books. We do have those are available online. So if you know that your ancestor's name and you know basically their roll number, you can track it through their individual roll numbers. Allotments are going to be just a little bit different than the census cards, because allotment records, because the land was basically given to each individual, those allotment records are going to be by roll number. But we do have those at the Historical Society, and we can assist you with tracing those. And some of those packets can be extremely lengthy as well. Did that answer the question, Christina? I'm
I think so, yes.
okay.
This next question says, this individual is researching Friedman.
Mhm.
Family history says she went to enroll with her daughter to enroll by blood, but was told she was in the wrong line and ended up as a Friedman on the rolls. Have you heard of stories like that? She is listed on the Friedman census cards.
There was a lot of discrepancies that were listed, that were on the Dawes roll. If an individual, as I mentioned in the PowerPoint presentation, if an individual, perhaps they were freedmen, or maybe they were, and maybe they were part Cherokee or part Creek. And basically, they enrolled them on the Freedmen roll. There are a lot of individuals who basically claimed lesser blood quantum, or basically were, if there is something that is called the one drop rule. If the Dawes Commission felt that you had one drop of African American blood, basically you were placed on the Dawes roll. You can there's a lot of information on our website about that. But yes, I have heard that. There are a lot of individuals who basically either claimed lesser blood quantum, or basically were enrolled as freedmen. There are different tribes now. Some of the tribes have basically enrolled freedmen. There are various court cases basically that are going on today um, about the freedmen, and basically enrollment within the tribe. Did that answer your question? Okay. So
If
yes, I
if
have
it
heard of
didn't,
that.
please add a follow-up if you need more
Okay.
information. The next question asks, what was the name of the online index accessible with a Metro library card?
Okay, perfect. So it you can there is hundreds of databases for genealogists that you can get through your metro library. Fold 3 is one of the databases that we use, that basically you can obtain the census cards and the application packets for the final rolls. And you can access that for free using your library card, and in databases, or if you go and search genealogy databases, basically it's fold 3, and it's fold like folding the flag. And it was actually established as a military database, but there was so much information, and the Dawes final rolls and the index is on there. That's a little insider information, so you don't have to buy ancestry. So
Um, this question asks, would the Oklahoma Historical Society have documents on Shawnee adoption into the Cherokee tribe?
yes, we do. And a lot of times you will find the adopted Shawnee listed on the Dawes roll. I'm not exactly sure if you have researched your ancestor, but in the notes section, the research division has tried to distinguish if they were adopted Delaware or adopted, that will be denoted within the index, and you can click on the hyperlink, and then it will take you to the actual, tell you who all was enumerated on that card. But yes, we can actually assist you with that.
This question asks, did some tribes or reservations conduct censuses outside of the federal census?
Yes, they did. You will find a number of censuses, especially pre-removal census. There are 1880, the 1880 Cherokee Nation census. There are pre-removal census for 1835 that we have at the Historical Society. As far as outside the Dawes roll during that particular time period, there are some 1896 Choctaw Nation census. A lot of those there's 1890 Chickasaw. So there is a number of census records that are available.
And I am going to stop you after this next question because we're running out of time, but I want to let everybody know that we can potentially reach out to you with answers to your questions if they were not answered during this. We will have them recorded. But this last question asks, can the Fold 3 be found in any other libraries?
Yes, it can. I will say that most public libraries and most genealogical and historical societies will have access to those databases. We have them at the Historical Society, but as I have found, like Dallas Public Library and some of the major historical societies and some of the even smaller historical societies within Oklahoma and other states do have access to those various databases.
Thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate this presentation.
And And if you need assistance, please feel free to reach out. The Research Center's website and our email address is located on our website. So my name is Laura Martin. You can feel free to email me. I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
okhistory.org, and the address to the research center is at the bottom of the page, 800 Nazi Zudi Drive in Oklahoma City. Thank you so much, Laura. Really appreciate this presentation. It was phenomenal. I am looking forward to the next time you join us because you always teach us so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it on this cold day.